Hello, everyone, and welcome to Body Bags. I'm your reviewer for today. I'm Lonnie from Horror Heaven77. And the movie I want to talk about. Okay, if you watched any of my videos on this channel here for a while, you realize, it was a couple of months back we did a snow theme week where I talked about, um, Stephen King's miniseries version of The Shining, and that had mentioned that, Kubrick's film The Shining was the movie that introduced me to Stephen King books and got me into being a fan of Kubrick films, being a fan of Stephen King novels and things like that. And so, of course, it just seemed like I had to do this one. So we're talking about the sequel to The Shining, Doctor Sleep. Now, this movie here, it came out last year. It's gotten a lot of praise, and I can understand why. Overall, I think this is a really, really good movie, and yeah, I think this movie's really well done. It's a good story. It's a good follow up to The Shining. Written in the screenplay and directed by Mike Flanagan, who, he's definitely becoming one of the big names in horror. He really is. He did the Netflix movie version of King's book Gerald's Game. He did that. He did Ouija, Origin of Evil. He did what was it, Oculus, I believe it was. He created the new Netflix series, The Haunting of Hill House. So, I mean, he's definitely getting up there as one of the big names in horror. Hush, that's another movie he wrote and directed. That movie's fantastic. Anyway, so yeah, he decided to take this on as a challenge, and based off of King's book, and I have to admit, I was really, really pleasantly surprised by this. The only question is, though, it's like, could you watch and enjoy this movie if you've never seen The Shining? Possibly, but I think, this really, really, that's kind of the thing. I think if you never really saw, Kubrick's movie or King's miniseries or read King's book or something like that, this movie is just going to just kind of pass before you, and it's just going to kind of go away, and you're going to be like, okay, well, that was the thing. But if you are, a fan of The Shining, you're a fan of King's book and or Kubrick's film, King's miniseries, then yeah, I definitely recommend this very highly. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. You're going to be really happy with it, and even though you wouldn't think that something like The Shining could ever be sequelized, this is good. They do a good job of it here. So the story, it takes place around after the events in the beginning. It takes place after the events at the Overlook Hotel. You got Danny and Wendy. They're still, they're living in Florida now. They wanted to get as far away from, Colorado and the Overlook Hotel as they could. Could you blame them? And they're living there, and it's kind of tricky because, in the book The Shining, in the miniseries version, the character of Dick Halloran lives. So in the book of Doctor Sleep, he's talking to Dick Halloran in person, but in the movie version, because this is a sequel to Kubrick's film where Halloran dies, he's talking to the spirits, and he's still seeing ghosts and things from the Overlook Hotel. And the character of Dick Halloran tells him, what you need to do is you need to take these spirits and basically lock them in a trunk and hide them away in the back of your mind, and that way they won't have any more power over you, because that's what they're doing. These spirits, these evil spirits, they're feeding off of you. And so he teaches Danny how to do this, and he starts doing this. So, like, the rotting naked lady from the bathtub, he's able to put her into a trunk and keep it locked away. The two twin girls, them, the owner of Overlook, Horace Derwent, him, Grady, the caretaker, all that stuff. He's able to lock away all these ghosts and keep them hidden away in the recesses of his mind as he's starting to grow up. And he goes on, and the thing is, though, is like one of the biggest things that is a theme in this movie, especially if you watch the 3 hour director's cut, is definitely more implied there. But the one thing is that when Danny gets older, he starts drinking really heavily, and his life is unraveling, is falling apart, things like that. And he's basically starting to turn into his father. And that's kind of the biggest theme in this story, is that you got, Ewan McGregor as Danny Torrance. he's really like, that's kind of the biggest struggle that he is facing, is trying not to be his father's son. And over time, Wendy passes away and things like that, and he's drifting from place to place, and his life is not good, and just all kinds of terrible things. He's stealing money, and he finally hits into this small town, and he decides that he's going to clean his life up. And he meets this guy Bill, played by Cliff Curtis, who is Travis on Fear the Walking Dead. And Bill helps him get into a place, and helps him get kind of get into AA, kind of get his life sorted out. And he realizes that his gift, the shining, has a particular advantage for him. It can help him to help other people. And so what he ends up doing is he gets a job as an orderly in an old folks rest home. And the thing is like, he gains the reputation, the name Dr. Sleep. And the reason why he does this is because he and this cat, there's a cat that, and that's like based off of an old urban legend that I heard, that, that there are these nursing homes where they keep cats there. And it's like, these cats would just kind of wander around and everything. And then if the cat went into a particular patient's room and went in there to visit whoever was in the room, that was the cat letting you know that this person was getting ready to pass away. And so you got this cat in this nursing home. It's doing the same thing. It goes and finds somebody that's getting ready to pass away. And then Danny, as he goes in to visit these people right when they're at the point of getting ready to pass away. And they're, telling them about how they're scared. They're worried about, like, what's going to be waiting. Is there anything going to be waiting on the other side? What's going to be waiting for them on the other side? And Danny, comforts them, and he assures them and things like that, and helps them basically when they're ready to pass away. So while all this is going on, we're introduced to a girl named Abra, and, she's really into, magic and illusion and things like that. And her mom is played by Jocelin Donahue from House of the Devil, Insidious, many Insidious 2, many other movies she's been in. But her mom and her Abra, her mom and her dad, this is Abra here. They start realizing, like, kind of things are really weird with this girl. It's like they see things moving, or like they invite a magician to the girl's birthday party, and so like they go into the kitchen. He's like showing them, like, doing tricks with like spoons and things like that. And so she's like, I could do that. And so they go in and they see, like, all the knives and forks and spoons are, up on the ceiling and things like that. And they all fall down. And so they're getting, they love their daughter, but they're scared of her because they realize, she has this power that's kind of really creeping them out. And then Abra starts seeing into this woman who's basically kind of like I guess you could call her like a psychic vampire. And her name is Rose the Hat, and that's her there. And this Rose the Hat, she's kind of like an old soul. Like I said, she's kind of a vampire in a sense. She's been around for many, many years, and she belongs to this group of people called the True Knot. And one of them is actually Carl Stryken, who is Lurch in the in the Addams Family movies. And so what they do, they're this kind of like vagabond caravan thing that they go around from place to place. And what they do is they find people with psychic powers, people who have powers like The Shining. And what they do is they take these people, and usually they're scoping out children. They're like children of the best. And so, they take these people with The Shining or whatever psychic powers they have. They try to get them into the most highest state of fear and terror and panic, because and then they feed off what they call the steam. And they say, the more scared you are, and the more aware you are that you're going to die, things like that, it really juices up the steam, and it's better for us to feed off of, and things like that. And so Abra realizes that now they're going to be on to her, that they sense her, and that they're coming to kill her. And she is able to mentally reach out to Danny, the same way that in The Shining, the way Danny was able to reach out to Dick Halloran and ask him to come help. And so Danny is kind of like he's trying not to get involved with this in the beginning because he's more like trying to get his act together and things like that. And then Abra, comes to visit him, and she's talking about things that she knows, and then basically the two of them start working together. And I'm going to try not to give away too much, but they start working together, and then they have to band together along with Bill, and they have to fight Rose and the True Knot because they're coming for them and they're killing people along the way, and they find out that basically Abra would be, for these psychic vampires, Abra would be like the biggest like Thanksgiving feast that they would ever have. And then, but see, part of the problem is though too is like when they're feeding on these people, they feed off of them, and then the steam runs out, and then they have to go look for another victim. Their plan um, is to get Abra here, and they're all like yeah, you could take Rose says you could, or yeah, Rose had, she's like, you could take a cow and you could kill the cow, and then you could have meat for like a month, you know. But you take that cow, you could have milk for years or things like that. Basically saying that like they could keep her, and rather than kill her, they could just constantly feed off of her. That they could just eat more and more. And they wouldn't have to travel as much, and they wouldn't have to kill as many people and things like that. And so you get into some really high stakes, game of cat and mouse, and psychic cat and mouse too. And ultimately, one thing that wasn't in the book that Mike Flanagan did change from the book to the movie was that in this version, especially in the director's cut, Danny decides the best thing to do is to go back to the Overlook Hotel and basically wake up the spirits, wake up the demons and everything that's there within, and wait for Rose the Hat to show up, and then they basically have their ultimate confrontation in the Overlook Hotel. And if you are a fan of The Shining, that's where this movie is really, really gonna knock you on your ass. It really does, because they, if you watch the bonus features too, the filmmakers were really, really meticulous about trying to you know really capture the essence, to really make this a true sequel to Kubrick's film, to pay honor to it without messing it up, because a lot of movies do that. You could say like the Halloween 2018, because of it, a lot of people say, well, it's meant to be the true sequel to Halloween, but at the same time, it kind of screws up a lot of things, especially by ignoring all the other movies and things like that. This movie doesn't do that. This movie, leaves the original movie as it is, but does this as the right continuation of it. And that's one thing that's great. They don't mess up the timeline. They don't, it really does feel like a genuine extension of, The Shining. And they meticulously recreated the Overlook Hotel. They do the hedge maze. So I mean, you do get they do pay fan service in this, but at the same time, you do have a really good continuation story, and the idea of Danny Torrance growing up, and like I said, that's kind of the biggest theme in this movie, is that he is trying so hard not to be like his dad. And which one little spoiler I'll give is that you do see Jack Torrance in this movie, played by Henry Thomas, and I can't believe how good of a, just me personally, I can't believe how good of a job Henry Thomas did at playing Jack Torrance. I mean, he's not Jack Nicholson, but he did a hell of an imitation of him. It was really good the way he played the role. He's really interesting, really captivating to watch. But this movie, I think it's really, really solid. You know, in terms of gore, not a whole lot of gore, but you do get some blood, some splatter, everything else. There's one particularly gruesome scene I'm not going to give too much away about. Let's just say it has to do with the True Knot feeding on a victim, and we'll leave it at that. But Ewan McGregor, he really does a great job as Danny Torrance. Rebecca Ferguson, who plays Rose the Hat, she plays a great villain in this. She just, it's kind of the thing. She has beauty and charisma, and she just has kind of like a style about her and everything else. She's very interesting to watch. She's very captivating as the villain. The young actress who plays Abra, she does an amazing job. And, like I said, one thing that I think really is going to make this movie stand out, if you are a fan of The Shining, is Mike Flanagan's deep love for the material. His deep love for Stephen King's books, his deep love for the Kubrick film. It's all here. And that's one of the things that's really, really good about it, is that it really pays tribute to the original movie in the best way, being a continuation of it, not trying to reboot it, not trying to, change everything around. Although I will say that, it's like, no, I'm not going to say, because then it'd be given away. But anyway, yeah, I definitely recommend Doctor Sleep, especially if you are a fan of The Shining. If you're not, you may not be too into this, but if you do love The Shining, yeah, definitely check it out. I think I've already said this like 20 times already, but I would highly, highly recommend. And I know this is going to be a pain in the ass for the people who are strictly DVD buyers, because I think the DVD has only the theatrical cut. But yeah, sad to say, the 4K only has the theatrical cut too. So in this movie, for this movie in particular, the best way you can win is you really need the Blu-ray or the digital, because that way you get the 3 hour director's cut, and that really is the best version to watch. The 3 hour director's cut really, really works. So, but anyway, so I highly recommend Doctor Sleep. It's really, really good. A perfect, a perfect film. If you were going to do a sequel to The Shining, this is how you go about it. And yeah. And I think that's pretty interesting, though, too, in the sense that Mike Flanagan, because that's the thing. We know that King and Kubrick had a difference of ideas and opinions on the movie version of The Shining. And it's been well known, well documented throughout the decades, that King really did not like Kubrick's movie at all. And then for, Mike Flanagan to make a movie that simultaneously appeals to both the Kubrick estate and Stephen King, I think that's a pretty impressive feat, that in and of itself. But so yeah, I think I talked about it far too long. But anyway, yeah, Doctor Sleep, check it out. It's really, really good, especially if you love The Shining and you're a fan of Stephen King. Give it a go. It's worth it. Definitely 3 hours well spent. So anyway, so that's going to do it. If anybody took the time to watch this video, I thank you for doing it. I also appreciate you for doing it. I hope you enjoyed the review. If you did, please like. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Body Bags channel. There's a daily review every day of the week. I'm the Saturday reviewer. We got great guys. They're all doing good stuff. And, different tastes. You get a little aspect of everything from the horror genre. So yeah, so check it out. And again, that's it. Thanks for watching. Have a good night, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.